Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, kids, for being quiet. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for coming to our annual Veterans Day celebration at Platte River Academy. This is a tradition that was started when the school was opened, and it will continue for as long as we're all here, I can guarantee you. We honor our veterans. We appreciate what every single one of them have done. Those who have served in combat, those who have not, who have served in non-combat roles, whatever. Your contribution to this nation and to these kids is what it's all about. So thank you, and let's give everyone a round of applause for that. Okay? The reason it's such a packed house right now is that we're having our 3rd, 4th, and 5th graders sing the anthems for each of the services as well, and then when they're done, they will actually exit to go back to class. Their ceremony was this morning, which was more student-centered, and this one is a little bit more adult-centered for our 6th, 7th, and 8th graders, as well as all of you wonderful people that have participated with us. So thank you for being here. So I will turn this over to Eagle Scout William Ziegler to post the colors.
Color guard, attention. Audience, please rise. Color guard, forward march.
The words to the caisson song were originally written by Field Artillery First Lieutenant Edmund Gruber. A caisson is a horse-drawn cart used to transport artillery and ammunition. Gruber wrote this song while he was stationed in the Philippines in 1908. Later in his career, Gruber became a brigadier general.
Composer John Philip Sousa transformed the song into a march in 1917, just before World War I. In 1956, the song was adopted as the official anthem of the Army and retitled The Caissons Go Rolling Along.
The Marines Hymn is the oldest official song in the United States military. The words date from the 1800s, but no one knows the author. It is thought Marines over the years have added to the verses.
The first verse is, "From the halls of Montezuma to the shores of Tripoli." Montezuma refers to the battle that took place during the Mexican-American War in 1846 when the Marines stormed the Chapultepec Castle. Tripoli refers to the First Barbary War in 1801 along the northern coast of Africa, during which America fought pirates who were attacking our ships during Thomas Jefferson's presidency. 1938, all airmen were part of the Army Air Corps. That year, Liberty Magazine sponsored a contest to find an official anthem for the Army Air Corps. The entry from Robert Crawford titled "Off We Go Into the Wild World Yonder" was chosen. Robert Crawford was a pilot and an accomplished musician. His song was premiered at the Cleveland Air Races on September 2nd, 1939.
After World War II, the Army Air Corps evolved into the U.S. Air Force and kept his song as their official anthem. On July 30th, 1971, the first page of Crawford's original score was carried to the surface of the moon aboard Apollo 15 Falcon lunar module. The Apollo 15 crew was the first and only all-Air Force crew.
Okay, fourth grade.
Navy Bandmaster Lieutenant Charles Zimmerman and Alfred Miles wrote Anchors Aweigh as a new march for the Navy in 1906. This march was played by the band and sung by the brigade at the 1906 Army-Navy football game. For the first time in several seasons, Navy won.
The word weigh used in this manner means to hoist or raise. Away means that the action has been completed. The anchor is aweigh when it is pulled from the bottom, signaling that the ship is ready to move. Anchors Aweigh was dedicated to the Naval Academy class of 1907 and was then adopted as the official song of the U.S. Navy.
Third grade.
Semper Paratus is a Latin term meaning always prepared.
This phrase was adopted as the perfect motto to describe the United States Coast Guard.
Using the motto, Captain Francis Van Boskirk wrote the words to the anthem while serving aboard a cutter in Savannah, Georgia in 1922. 5 years later, he composed the music on an old piano while serving in Alaska.
The anthem was titled
The
Coast Guard Marching Song.
Okay, we're going to take just a moment to let our third, fourth, and fifth graders exit. I can't guarantee you it will be quiet, but we'll try. Okay, boys and girls, let's exit quietly. Or try to exit quietly.
Say hello. Hi.
Okay. Okay. We're very proud of our kids. They do a great job. At Platte River Academy, we study a lot of history. And so they start at Mesopotamia and the Fertile Crescent in first grade, and they go all the way through the Cold War and Vietnam and beyond, and civil rights up to 8th grade. So it's quite an education these kids get in history, and this is a big part of it as well. Alex Thoreau, would you come forward, please? Alex is going to tell us why Veterans Day.
Hi, I'm Alex Thoreau. I'd just like to say thank you for coming. Thank you for taking some time out of your day. President Ronald Reagan said, "We remember those who were called upon to give all a person can give, and we remember those who were prepared to make that sacrifice if it were demanded of them in the line of duty, though it never was. Most of all, we remember their acts of devotion and gallantry with which all of them ennobled their nation as they became champions of a noble cause." The students here have been remembering these champions' sacrifices on Veterans Day every year they have attended Platte River Academy. Not all schools make a big deal about Veterans Day, but PRA has chosen to make this day special and important since 2004. Let me remind you why we have decorated the halls of our school, learned new songs to sing, and why we have invited guests to attend this special program today. It is because of our veterans. For them, our country has dedicated a specific date each year, tomorrow's date, November 11th, to pay tribute to our veterans, to those who have fallen in service, to their acts of courage and valor, and to their families. This day is known as Veterans Day. So why November 11th? World War I, known at the time as the Great War, officially ended when the Treaty of Versailles was signed on June 28, 1919. However, fighting had stopped 7 months earlier with the armistice, or temporary cessation of fighting, between the Allied nations and Germany went into effect on the 11th hour of the 11th day of the 11th month. For that reason, November 11th, 1918 is generally regarded as the end of World War I. The following year, in 1919, President Woodrow Wilson proclaimed November 11th as a tribute to Armistice Day. Armistice Day was primarily set aside for veterans of World War I, but since the war to end all wars, in fact did not end all wars, there are many more to honor. So after World War II and the Korean War, Armistice Day was renamed Veterans Day on June 1st, 1954, in order to honor all veterans. It is estimated that there are now 21 million veterans in the United States. Veterans Day now occurs on the 11th day of the 11th month every year. President Eisenhower issued the first Veterans Day Proclamation, which was the official message from the President of the United States about the significance of this day. This has become an annual tradition for every president since then. I'd like to read a little bit from this year's presidential proclamation. Our veterans represent the very best of America. They have bravely answered the call to serve in the finest military force in the world, and they have earned the dignity that comes with wearing the uniform and defending our great flag. On Veterans Day, we honor all Americans who have served in the Army, Navy, Air Force, Marines, and Coast Guard, both in times of war and peace. For nearly 100 years since the end of World War I, Veterans Day has given us time to pay due respect to our veterans, who have passed the torch of liberty from one generation to the next. President Donald J. Trump. At the end of the proclamation, President Trump encourages all Americans to recognize the fortitude and sacrifice of our veterans through public ceremonies and private thoughts and prayers. And he calls on all Americans, including civic and fraternal organizations, places of worship, schools, and communities to support this day with commemorative expressions and programs. Nobody can doubt that we proudly share this responsibility and continue this tradition at Platte River. I'd like to close with some advice from John F. Kennedy. As we express our gratitude, we must never forget that the highest appreciation is not to utter words, but to live by them. Till we gather again next year, let us all find ways to show our gratitude for those who have and continue to serve. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Alex. That was a great piece. Every year we have a competition within our middle school where they write essays about Veterans Day. And this year we had about 125 of them. That comprises our 7th and our 8th grade. And we end up with about 25 of them that go over to the V, and the V looks them over and gives them scores. The two young people to my left won that competition, and they're going to read their proclamations, their letters to you, and they're very good, and we're very proud of them. And first up will be Maggie Willis from the 8th grade.
Good afternoon, everyone. Hi, I'm Maggie Willis. I'm an 8th grader here at Platte River, and I would just like to thank you all for coming out and spending your time with us on this special day. We see them in uniform, and we thank them for their service. We say we understand what they did, but the truth is, we never will. We will never understand what happened in their lives, the friends they've lost, the things they gave up, and the trauma of it all. Veterans are brave, smart, disciplined, selfless, and patriotic. And to me, they deserve the utmost respect, importance, and add so much value in our community and nation. Veterans are brave. Although we won't ever fully understand just how brave they are, we can say this for a fact. Not only do their sacrifices happen on the battlefield or behind the scenes, but they happen in the small, quiet living rooms of houses with only family there to witness. In addition to being brave enough to fight for freedom, they are brave beyond measure to leave the things they love to protect us. Veterans are smart. Being in the military requires impeccable skill and intelligence. They are hard workers and wise beyond their years. Veterans are disciplined. They are outstanding team players and can get the mission done on time. They adapt and focus well and understand the importance of sacrifice and dedication to get the job done. Veterans are selfless. They gave up everything to fight for our country. They are the symbol of selflessness because they put their lives in danger for the country and people that they love so dearly. They sacrifice leaving their homes, their loved ones, and their lives to protect us. Veterans are patriotic. Although this goes without saying, they do everything for their country. They are proud to be from America and are willing to put their lives on the line to protect it. Veterans show us day in and day out their pride in being part of the United States. Veterans are brave, smart, disciplined, selfless, patriotic, and so much more. They give up everything for us and our freedom. Even if we will never fully understand what they went through, we can and should always be celebrating our veterans. Thank you.
Our second winner is Cole Alvarado, also from the 8th grade. Cole?
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for being here today. Appreciate it a lot. My name is Cole Alvarado. I'm in 8th grade. Veterans are America's soldiers that fought in any war over the years to keep America and the world safe and free from danger. Without our veterans, America wouldn't be free. We are all free because of our veteran sacrifice. While we are living normal lives, these courageous soldiers, no matter what branch, are in training other soldiers, or even heading into battle and seeing horrifying things. I could never imagine being in their shoes at that time. I wouldn't be living here in the United States if it wasn't for our veterans. My family has some veterans that mean a lot to me. My grandpa was an officer based in Germany during the Vietnam War. My great-grandma was a wave petty officer in the Navy during World War II. I am proud to say that she is one of the first women to officially serve in the Navy. I never got to meet my great-grandpa. He died before I was born. He was a German Jew living in Germany before World War II. His family was put into concentration camps, and nobody made it out alive. Thankfully, he left Germany right before the Nazis began to round up all the Jews. He served in the U.S. Army and worked intelligence because he spoke German. My grandparents and all you veterans in this room mean so much to me for what you have done for our country. Veterans will always be the ones who fought to keep our country free and safe, and that is the reason why I'm still living here now. We all thank our veterans for what they did for our country. Thank you.
Kids, I can't tell you how proud of you I am. I can tell you, actually, how proud of you I am. And I was going through the classes yesterday telling, I didn't get to all of them, but I was telling the 7th and 8th graders that I was really impressed with the level of scholarship and writing that they did on their essays this year. And you can see a lot of them posted up along the bulletin boards as you exit that direction today. Some real good ones. And in fact, they're all exceptionally good. We are very privileged this afternoon to have a very special guest with us. As you can see from the program, Lieutenant General Richard Schofield, I call him Dick Schofield, is with us, and he's a lieutenant general from the United States Air Force, retired. He was the commander of the Aeronautical Systems Center and Wright-Patterson Air Force Base prior to his retirement in June of 1996. His distinguished 35-year Air Force career included 12 years as a pilot. He was the Air Force's Gray Eagle, which is the Air Force aviator with the longest active rated service during his last 2 years of active duty. He served as a program director for 2 important aircraft development programs, helping bring forth the F-117 stealth fighter and the B-2 advanced technology bomber to reality. Following his Air Force career, he served in executive positions with General Corp, Aerojet, and has remained a consultant to the Department of Defense, the Air Force, and the aerospace industry. He also served as a senior advisor to the Air Force Research Laboratory regarding directed energy and manufacturing technology programs. General Schofield is a graduate of the University of Massachusetts, holds an MS in Systems Management from the University of Southern California, fight on. I'll go into that later. And an MBA from Oklahoma University. Would you please welcome General Schofield?
Let's see if I can turn this on here. Oh, test. Nope. I'm standing in the wrong place. Okay. Well, good afternoon. I did not know that the Air Force song had a second verse. At least it's the first time I can remember hearing it. And I want to say congratulations to you two and to Alex for some very fine writings on your part. Each year, our country has 2 holidays that celebrate those people who have served in the military. Memorial Day, which was first established in 1868 on May 30th as a day of Decoration Day for the Civil War veterans. It was really established to honor all those who had died on active duty. And now, in the current date, it's served at the last Monday in May of each year. Veterans Day, on the other hand, as was so notably pointed out earlier, was originally for Armistice Day and intended to honor the faithful fallen of World War I. And as was pointed out, President Eisenhower changed that in 1954. We should honor all these veterans who fought in combat and who still do engage in combat, and especially those who come home with wounds and other medical issues. At the same time, I think it's appropriate to understand the Cold War veterans and what they did so quietly from 1945 till 1989 to ensure our national defense was strong enough to prevent any war between the United States and the Soviet Union. I'm one of those veterans who not only served in a combat environment, but who also spent 35 years of my life in the Air Force making sure that our capabilities were sufficient to deter any hostile action that the Soviet Union may have contemplated. So on behalf of all veterans, I want to say thank you to Platte River Academy for taking the time to show your appreciation and for those who served and are still serving. I also want to say thank you for inviting me to participate in this program. I do enjoy talking with young people about our country and the future of our country. In 1947, the Department of War became the Department of Defense. It's a notable distinction between the names of the current department. And the Air Force was established as a separate service. I knew at that time that I was going to be a pilot in the Air Force. And I went to the University of Massachusetts because it was affordable and it had ROTC. and that was my ticket to pilot training. So when I graduated, I was commissioned, and I took an oath, the same oath that all the people, all the officers in the Air Force and the other military services take, to solemnly support and defend the Constitution of the United States against all enemies, foreign and domestic, and that I would bear true faith and allegiance to that same, and I would take the obligation freely without any mental reservation or purpose of evasion. And I will faithfully discharge the duties of the office which I was about to enter. So here's what I'd like to do now is share with you the various opportunities that I had in helping to maintain the strongest possible military force while I was on active duty. And I need you to hang on because I'm going to go real fast. First chart is the where I was in pilot training. That's not a toy airplane. That's a real airplane that they teach people how to fly in. And then second, I was assigned to Patrick Air Force Base, Florida, in support of the Atlantic Missile Range. If you could put the second chart up for me. The Atlantic Missile Range in the early 1960s was in the business of trying to design and build new rockets and missiles in order to carry nuclear weapons if need be, or to launch satellites, or to launch eventually astronauts. And the missions that I flew were in airplanes with lots of telemetry equipment. We would go down to the South Atlantic and we would be underneath the missiles when they came back into the atmosphere, making sure that they worked the way they were supposed to and collecting the data that we could. In early 1964, I was sent to Vietnam. In Vietnam, I flew C-123 airplanes. Our primary goal or mission was to supply all the needs of the Special Forces people throughout the South Vietnam country. This necessitated landing on small dirt strips. When the camps were too small and didn't have any strips, we would drop the supplies to them out the back of the airplane. And if you've ever seen the whites of a cow's eye, that's what you get when you push one of them out the back end of a C-123. The picture with the, go back one, please. The picture with the gentleman in the middle, in the lower left or right corner, is a mountain-haired tribesman. These were people who lived in the jungle in the middle of the South Vietnam, up near Pleiku. They were tremendous warriors, true fighters, much as the Kurds are today with the Iraqis. But these people fought very hard to help keep South Vietnam free because they saw a future for them as an entity of their own as well. Next chart. From there, I went to Hawaii. That was my reward for going to Vietnam, I guess. And in that, my role there was to catch buckets, what we called buckets. They were really capsules full of cameras that were on board satellites that took pictures of the Soviet Union over a period of 3 or 4 days. Then they would eject them back down to Earth, and it was our job to catch them before they went into the ocean. I'm proud to say that 65 93rd Death Squadron never had a bucket make it all the way to the ocean. One special mission that we had was in support of NASA back in the very early days of the space shuttle. And NASA needed to know what would happen when the space shuttle was going to re-enter the atmosphere with regard to the temperatures on the surface of the shuttle as it went through the atmosphere. So they created a vehicle called the X-23, which is a subscale model, and they launched it out of Vandenberg Air Force Base, out of the atmosphere, brought it over, fired it back into the atmosphere, and it came down near Kwajalein in the Pacific. And I was the number 3 guy of the 3 crews that were going to try to catch this thing. Number 1 missed on 2 passes, and so I was the guy that was supposed to go in and catch it, and I was able to do that. And it's now that on display at the Air Force Museum in Dayton, Ohio. Next chart. From Hawaii, it started a transitioning out of the flying business into the acquisition business. The Air Force sent me to Oklahoma University on a NAFIT program. I came back to Edwards and flew for 2 more years in the test business for recovery, and then went to the Armed Forces Staff College and finished up with the University of Southern California on another master's degree. The Air Force places very high value on keeping yourself current in your education and taking on challenges as you grow through your career. Our current secretary, Heather Wilson, is very, very strong on that. So my first job in the acquisition business was in the airborne warning and control system. This was in the early 1970s. The radar stations on the northern perimeter of the country were getting old, and we needed a new system that could be mobile and be able to detect bombers and any other enemy aircraft coming over the North Pole. And with that, from there I was sent to the Washington, D.C., where I served in the headquarters of Air Force Systems Command, and then over in the Pentagon. And that was for a couple of years, and then into the black world. Now the black world, as is known, is a very tough environment to work in. You have to be on your toes all the time because you're protecting top secret information. You work in very small teams who are well integrated and very motivated. And it was at the program office was located at Wright-Patterson Air Force Base in Ohio. And we had about 40 to 50 people, 20 or so of which were engineers. And our job was to advance some new technology. And I'll show you a little bit of that in a few minutes. But we had a group of engineers who were very tight and a lot of camaraderie and a lot of esprit de corps. And they wanted to have a picture taken together and put it in their Christmas cards that they could send to their friends. But security said no, there was no way that you could have a picture of all you guys together and that you would want to send out to your friends. So they figured out a way to do that. So they got these paper bags. Go ahead. Yep. So they all drew their face on a paper bag, had the picture taken, and then went out with their Christmas cards. And now what it was that these guys were working on, or these folks were working on, next chart, started out with 2 advanced technology development programs. And the whole idea was to see if we could build an airplane that could not be detected by radar. And the way you would do that was that you shape the airplane such that there's no surface that's perpendicular to any radar signals that are coming from the ground or from the air. The top one was an entry by Lockheed Martin called Half Blue, and it was the first ones of the 2 to fly. And the second one by Northrop Grumman was called Tacit Blue. And Northrop Grumman's computer capability had advanced sufficiently that they could design the airplane with more curvature than Lockheed Martin could initially. So what these 2 technology demonstrators led to was first the F-117A, which was the stealth fighter that was developed in the late 70s, very early 80s. We flew the test airplanes for 3 or 4 years, and then we had operational capability as early as 1982. And the F-117 is what made the opening night of Desert Storm so effective. Next chart. These are the guys who were in the test force who did all the hard work, took all the risk in making sure the system could work. It was a very unstable airplane, and it was because of the electronic flight control systems we were able to do it, but we still had a few surprises along the way. Go ahead with the next. And we'd had the first operational delivery in the spring of 1982. Can't tell you where, but it took us only 4 years from contract award to be able to deliver this first operational aircraft, which was effective for a good 15 to 20 years before it was retired. My second job, go ahead with the next one, was the B-2. This is the airplane that, this was all developed sight unseen by the public, beginning in the 1981 timeframe, and we rolled it out in 1988. Some people said, well, that took an awful long time. It turns out that General Motors started the Saturn program the same time we started the bomber, and we beat them to the ramp with our product. Even a little bit more than 4 wheels and a couple engines. Next chart. These are the people that made the B-2 work, the directors, my directors in the B-2 program office. More importantly, the spouses of the directors who worked there. These folks, the spouses, the kids, family, relatives, nobody knew what these folks were working on. And it was that way for a period of about 8 years. And there was a lot of sacrifice made by the families in order for the people to work on the programs and do the job that they did. Next chart. The good news is that the first flight, 17 July in 1989. And then, I don't want to say that there's a cause and effect here, but just saying that 3 or 4 months later was when the Berlin Wall came down and the Soviet Union started to go out of business. It was Ronald Reagan's strategy all along to outdo the Soviets with technology, making it so that they could not afford to continue to press us as a national threat. Then went back to the Pentagon for another couple of years. I look upon it as my second combat tour. And then from there, I got promoted to 3-star, and I went back to Wright-Patterson as the commander. And at the same time, as was mentioned, the Gray Eagle Award in the spring of '94. One of the great things about being a commander of a location like the Aeronautical Systems Center is that you get to do a lot of neat things. Next chart. One of my first duties after taking over in October was to serve turkey at Thanksgiving in the mess hall to all the folks that ate there. And then Veterans Day occurred in the same month, so I had the opportunity to do a Veterans Day talk, the same as I'm doing here. And then other opportunities. We had a groundbreaking ceremony for some new buildings one day, and I figured I might as well help break the ground with the bigger shovel. And so I was able to do that. And then there's always the picnics and the events where you get out to meet all of the young people, young families who are really doing the day-to-day work. And then the coup d'etat, if you will, on 24 January '96, I was able to deliver the 10th B-2 from the factory at Palmdale to Whiteman Air Force Base. 3.6 hours, 2 touch and goes, and a full stop. It was a fun day. And finally, after leaving the Air Force, as was mentioned, I continued to consult, and I still am working today, primarily right now on the B-21 program to see how we can get that. I've got to get one more first flight in, and then I'll be ready to maybe stop working. So, but I think what's important here is that you folks are the folks who are going to see that come to pass, and you folks are the folks who are going to be using this weapon system if you go into the Air Force. But you're also going to be the people who become the leaders of our military and industry in the future. So with that, I'd like to say thank you once again for allowing me to participate in this ceremony today. Thank you. There you go. Thanks. Thanks. Oh. Please.
Have a seat, please. Ladies and gentlemen, it's without a doubt we're in the presence of a great American hero, a man who's done a lot of things to protect you and I. And again, thank you very much, General, for your time and giving us your life, 35 years of his life for you guys. Okay. We're going to do a moment of silence here in a second, and I'm going to share with you something, and I'm going to read it because I have trouble getting through this. The families of the lost carry a burden of grief that time will lighten but never lift. Our whole nation honors every patriot who placed duty and country before their own lives. Join me now as we have a moment of silence to recognize our fallen heroes. Thank you very much. Boys and girls, right now we're going to have the veterans in this audience stand. I would like you to turn around, and I would like you to stand up. And veterans, would you please stand, and let's give them a round of applause. Thank you very much. Okay, we are going to together stay standing, and would the whole crowd stand, please? We are together going to sing God Bless America. And I'm going to try to lead it out. I don't know if it'll be on the right key, but we'll have fun. Okay, ready? God bless America, land that I love. Stand beside her and guide her through the night with the light from above. From the mountains to the prairies, to the oceans white with foam. God bless America, my home, sweet home. God bless America, my home, sweet home. Woo! Okay, you may be seated. Traditionally, we like to close with a couple of thoughts. And again, I will read this only because it is not easy to get through this at times. I was at my former school, the school I founded in Westminster called Jefferson Academy this morning, and it took everything in me to get through that because that was a school that I spent 14 years at. It was a 14 wonderful, wonderful years, but and I shared my experiences being in the military and how it helped me to learn two things in particular. I can do it. I can do it. I know I can do this. And then give it everything you got. And that's exactly what the military taught most of us who have served over the years. But this afternoon, Platte River Academy has been honored to recognize many men and women who have served our country. Over 40 million veterans have borne the costs of war and watching out for our peace. Most of them gave many of the good years of their lives to step into the shoes of defender. Hopefully, every veteran that's in attendance today can feel from this company of people that we are sincerely and deeply grateful for your sacrifice of defending us as a people and as a nation. Every veteran has his or her own story of entering military service. Many enlisted, some were drafted, some entered through academies. Yet, when their service is complete, veterans of every era, every background, and every branch have certain things in common. Those are shared commitments and experiences that formed bonds that will last for a lifetime. Every veteran has lived by a strict code of discipline. Every veteran understands the meaning of personal accountability, loyalty, and sacrifice. From the time that we uttered the oath, which we all did when we entered, put our hand up and said that oath, to the day that we were honorably discharged, our time belonged to America. Country came first. And whether you served abroad or at home, all veterans shared in the responsibility of maintaining our freedom and protecting that which we love so dearly. What veterans have given our country is beyond our power to fully repay. Yet today we recognize our debt to their honor. And on this national holiday, which occurs tomorrow, our hearts are filled with respect and gratitude for the veterans of the United States of America. Veterans, please stand one last time so that you can receive the admiration of Platte River Academy students. Please stand. Thank you. You may be seated. Thank you all for being here again today, and may each veteran in attendance again sense the love and admiration we have for every single one of you. And if you guys would please hang around and have a little bit of dessert and coffee with us in the library, we would be very much appreciated. At this time, we're going to retrieve our colors, retire our colors, and so Eagle Scout William Ziegler, would you come forward, please?
Color guard, attention. Audience, please rise. Color guard, forward march. Halt. Prepare to retrieve. Color guard, retrieve the colors of the state of Colorado. Color guard, retrieve the colors of the state, United States of America. Salute. 2. Reform rank. Forward march. Halt. Color guard at ease and audience dismissed with Mr. Mounier.
Thank you again, everyone. We are now dismissed, and please, all of our adults and veterans, please stay with us for a while if you can and spend some time with us. Thank you again. Blessings to all of you.